sure my video went away.
Hello, this is Mike Tillison at the Senior Center. Sheriff John O'Hagan is going to give us a talk then, a police talk at 12:30.
I can't wait to watch it. He just was
We're trying to get the computer set up right now.
So it's pretty fresh.
Looks like today's police talk is on human trafficking.
How's everybody doing with their lunch here? We're just about winding down. We're going to have a presentation will be right up here, as you can see, so if you can position your chair the best way that you can. So last month we weren't here. We had something come up. I was subpoenaed to go to court to testify. And the court was scheduled for 1 o'clock. But I had to meet with the prosecutor and stuff prior, so I understood what my role was. And the morning of it, at about 11 o'clock, I was canceled. Yes. So, instead of trying to get everybody rounded up again, and after we canceled it, we just let it pass. So, hope everybody's having a great summer. We have a good program today. I have with me Lieutenant Brian Gutowski. Brian recently took over our emergency management coordinator position, 1st of January. But just this past week, we happened to have a training right here in Manistee on human trafficking. Now I know in the past there was 1 or 2 people here that mentioned it as a topic. So I was pretty excited to see that we had a training here, and I sent this gentleman to the training, and he came back with quite a bit of information. So we're going to kind of pack it all into a good half hour or 45 minutes here to give you some an understanding of what's going on out there in regards to human trafficking. He'll talk about the child exploitation. He'll talk about in West Michigan of how close to home this really is. So I'm not going to take away from his program. How about a nice warm welcome for, this is Lieutenant Brian Gutowski. Now, I don't know if he talks loud or if you need a microphone.
Microphone.
Okay, so it does. Wander around. Here, you and John.
All right, good afternoon.
Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I'd like to kind of preface this program with just kind of warning you about some of the difficult topics that human trafficking covers. A lot of stuff you're going to see and I'm going to talk about are kind of difficult to hear. A lot of the child sexual exploitation and different things that go on with human trafficking are not something that we're used to talking about. So I'm going to preface this presentation with that. Just to begin here, I know a lot of confusion, and there's a lot of people who talk about human trafficking. I know a lot of you have probably seen in the news where there was just a recent semi-truck that had a bunch of people that were locked in it. Several of them were found deceased when the authorities got there. Does anybody know the difference between trafficking and smuggling? Because there is a difference, and I think it's important to think about that. Many times when we think about smuggling, whether it be typically it's products, right? So people smuggle goods and different things into different areas of the country, the United States, whether it be coming in from foreign countries or whether it be moving from state to state. The difference between trafficking and smuggling are 3 different elements. The first of which is force. You have to have force, fraud, or coercion in order for it to be considered human trafficking or trafficking in people. Anybody have any examples of force? Does everybody realize what force is? So whether or not you're beating, assaulting, confinement of people would be considered force. So if you're keeping somebody locked in your basement or something like that, that would be considered force. The fraud, false pretenses. So a lot of times we'll talk about this as we go on too. Many of these people are entered into, they come from other countries. So when they come into this country, they owe a debt, technically. A lot of times those aren't specifically laid out, so we'll talk about that. And then there's coercion as well. So threats of serious harm. You're going to watch a video here in a minute that I'm going to show of a young lady who kind of ended up in a human trafficking situation where her daughter was involved as well, and that was kind of put there as a as a chip for her to stay under this gentleman's control. A lot of times that'll consist of controlling their basic life skills, food and water and different things like that in order to keep them doing what the trafficker is wanting them to do. So So first of all, I want to talk about the different types of trafficking. So there's labor trafficking. This is all considered human trafficking. So although there is the sexual, child exploitation, sexual exploitation side of it, there's also human trafficking. A lot of that comes in the form of forced labor. A lot of people are brought to this country or are held in other countries where they're forced to work for basic life needs. Another thing is basically they're forced to work against their will. There's often a threat of violence when they're forced to work against their will. If they don't do what the trafficker wants them to do, then there's that violence that's associated with that. And then there's also the physical and sexual violence as a means of control also. So that's all stuff that happens with not the sexual trafficking, but the labor trafficking. A lot of times what you're looking at is your agricultural, landscaping businesses, manufacturing, a lot of your service industries, cleaning hotel rooms, and we don't see a lot of that as much in the smaller communities as far as hotels and stuff. But when you get into the Las Vegas, Chicago, New York, those size communities, there's a lot of this going on. But we're not immune to it. As you all know, we have a lot of migrant workers that come up during the summertime to assist with the harvest of our crops. So they fall into these situations as well. There's also what they call debt bondage. So basically this is labor that you're forced to do to pay back a debt. And a lot of times when people are entered into this, let's say they get a hold of what they call a mule and he offers to bring them into the country. Those terms aren't well defined. So the mule will bring them over here and say, okay, you owe me a debt, but those terms are never clearly defined. So they often spend a great majority of their life trying to repay this debt that they don't know how much they owe, they don't know how much longer it's going to go on, and many times it ends up being for the majority of their life. The next type is the type that you probably hear most on the news, which is sex trafficking. A lot of people think this ends up being just children, but a lot of times it is adults as well that are brought into sex trafficking, the industry. There are female and male traffickers. I know in our class they talked of a story where a young girl and her cousin were taken off the street, and the reason that they got into the car with these individuals is because there was a female driver. Typically, young females especially tend to trust other females. They wouldn't think that another female would put them in this sort of position. But a lot of times you see that as a progression for prostitution, where a prostitute will be in the business for quite a while, and then the trafficker says, okay, you will be relieved of some of the duties that you're being forced to do if you can go out and find a suitable replacement to take over for what you're doing. So we're not just talking about men who are in the trafficking business. There's a lot of female human traffickers as well. They often will promise them a better life. You're going to hear in a moment in a video that I'm going to show you next, a young lady who really thought her life was taking a turn for the better. And then out of the blue, after that trust had been gained, she ends up in a situation that she has a hard time escaping. Some of the areas you see this, your street prostitution, brothel work, internet prostitution, the internet's been a huge game changer. We'll talk about that a little bit as we go through the presentation. The access to people is so much more than it ever used to be prior to the internet. And that's where the majority of a lot of the human trafficking goes along. People will make dates on the internet, use different websites that they have for escort services and prostitution services in order to make this business thrive, unfortunately. So this should be my video. This is a story of a young lady named Rebecca Bender. And hopefully everybody will be able to hear it when I turn my speakers up here. But it's a pretty powerful story.
Set your microphone by the speaker.
Oh, that's right.
Raised in a small town in southern Oregon, and I was a good kid in school. I grew up in a normal middle-class family. I got great grades. I was really active in sports, and I had graduated a year early. I was accepted into Oregon State University, and I had my dorm room already assigned, and I was really excited to move up to Corvallis. But that summer I got pregnant by my boyfriend, and I had to make a real tough decision whether I was going to keep my baby and unenroll from university or get an abortion and keep it all a secret. And that was a really tough summer for me. After I had the baby, I had some friends that had gone up to U of O to go to college, and they had an extra room in one of their apartments. It was at that time that I met a boy or a guy who pretended to take interest in me. I really thought he liked me, and we got along really well. He was really funny and charming, and he had a nice car, and he always picked up the tab, he had nice clothes, and he told me he was a record producer, that he had a band up in Portland, and that's why he frequently went out of town. There's a saying that says when you take a child by the hand, you take the mother by the heart. And I really think that's what happened for me, because I had this new little girl, and this man who showed this desperate attention towards her, like he wanted to really help make this family that I really wanted for my daughter. And he invited me to move in with him after about 6 months of dating. I was really excited, and I brought him down to Southern Oregon to meet my family, and everything seemed fine until we arrived in Las Vegas. He said we were moving there because that was the entertainment capital of the world, and being a record producer and having a band, that's where they were going to get the most gigs and the most jobs, and that's where his job was leading him. So I desperately wanted to go with him, to be with them, and to start this family that he promised me. He pulled up to an escort service, and he said, "This is how it works in Vegas. I've spent a lot of money to get you here. But first I'm not selling an apartment. I've filled your fridge up with food. You're going to need to run that money back." And I felt trapped. I felt like, how am I going to get out of this? And you didn't know if you were going to live or die. You didn't know what he was going to do or what he was capable of. And so it was really scary. I can remember just running through the casino thinking, these people don't even have a clue what's going on. They're just, cha-ching, cha-ching, Las Vegas, yay! And they're doing all this stuff, and I'm running for my life. I'm running from a man that has forced me into doing things that I didn't want to do. When you have a trafficker that's waiting at home with your child that says, if you don't bring home $1,500, you're going to find your daughter out on the corner, I think I was probably more frightened to go home than I was to be in the room. Because if you got robbed, it was your fault for being stupid. If you got raped, it was your fault for not watching your back. Anything that happened to you was typically your fault, and you incurred more punishment for allowing those things to happen to you. So it made me always walk in fear of your trafficker.
Okay, as you can see, like we talked about, a lot of these people, these traffickers will take young people under their wing and establish that relationship with them. A relationship that seems very sincere. It seems like they care about them and their families. In this case, this young lady had a young child, and she thought she was starting a better life for herself. But as soon as they got to Las Vegas, as she described, things changed rather quickly. And you went from a situation where you thought you were learning, this new life and starting this new exciting life to being forced into a human trafficking situation, which is just a terrible situation. So there's a couple different types of trafficking I want to talk about. The other one is trafficking minors. And you're going to see this a lot with runaways and people with stable homes. So, and I'll tell a quick story, and a lot of times people think we live in a small town. Like I said, a lot of the big town problems we don't seem to have here, but about a year ago, traffic police officers in their gas station and saw a young lady in there that was staring at him, almost to the point of being uncomfortable. Now, as police officers, we're used to people staring at us, and when you see a police officer in uniform, typically people look. But something about that just didn't seem right to him. So he ended up following that vehicle, found something wrong with the license plate, ended up stopping it out by Northern Pass gas station, which is now the Parkdale Easy Mart. I actually assisted him on that traffic stop, and in that vehicle were several migrant workers, people, undocumented residents that were here in the country, But along with them were 2 young ladies that were runaways from Indiana. At first, as you experience, and they talk about this in the training, how many of these people they have a hard time reaching out to authorities. And one of the things they talk about is how they will act when they encounter authorities. So that really long stare that officer got in the gas station was probably the only means she had to reach out for help when she was with her traffickers. Those girls were returned. We waited 14 hours for their families to drive up from Indiana to take them back. But I have no doubt that we intercepted human trafficking on that day. Unfortunately, we just weren't informed enough to be able to recognize it at that point. So it is here. Casinos are another huge target for human traffickers because people go there for entertainment, right? So that's another thing that we need to keep vigilant of is young people in those situations, making sure that we're not supporting that at all. Survival sex is another thing they talk about. I know it's kind of a hard thing to think about, but many of these people, especially the runaways, as a young person, when you run away, you anticipate that whoever you're living with is going to be upset that you took off. A lot of times they don't have the money or the means to provide for themselves, so when they get in this situation, that's what they're presented with to live. That's their means of getting paid, and that's their means of getting food and the basic necessities they need. And if they don't take part in those activities, the threats of violence and different things, and even the thought of not being able to eat, are things that play into that decision for them to stay there with the trafficker. Does not discriminate between boys and girls. As disturbing as it is, there's a market for human trafficking in both boys and girls. We're going to watch a video here in a little bit that'll kind of bring some perspective into that. Typically, your lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender communities are a little more susceptible to this also because they typically have a hard time getting accepted, especially in smaller communities. So a lot of times they feel like they don't have anywhere to go, so they end up with the wrong people. We just talked about some reasons that this exists in the first place and why it flourishes. Greed is the first and biggest. This is the second largest business in the world. So when you talk the world, we're talking foreign countries too. So there really is a ton of money, and I think the most disturbing thing for me going through the training was to think of all the people that are involved in human trafficking. There's a consumer. There's a consumer out there for all the people who are trafficked, which I think was the most concerning thing for me. Power, many times human traffickers like that power that they have over people. Control, lust is a huge factor, and with the internet nowadays, I'm sure we're all familiar with it. You can get just about anything you want on the internet, and it's just a click away. So that's really been a game changer for human trafficking. And there's a demand for it, which, like I spoke about, I think is the most disturbing thing. There's also an invisibility to it. A lot of the people, not everybody comes from that stable life that the young lady in the video talked about. Many times these are people who maybe not have family, maybe they don't have a bunch of friends. So when they go away with a trafficker, there's not a whole lot of people who really notice they're gone at first. And it's available. That's another thing, reason that it flourishes. What do they look for? Runaways. People who are dependent on drugs, and oftentimes you hear about this too, where a young person is brought in by the trafficker and they are actually given addictive drugs. So what the trafficker will then do is use that as a form of control to keep them, if you don't go out and do this, then I won't supply you with that drug your body needs to keep from getting sick. Homelessness too is a big factor. People who don't have homes typically don't have families who live with them, so if they disappear off the streets, there's not a whole lot of people out looking for them, unfortunately. Undocumented status is another one. I know we have one of our newer deputies is retired from the Coast Guard. He worked out in California and down in Florida. And like we talked about with the debt that people owe, there were many times that they intercepted ships coming from China with Chinese immigrants. And they're promised this better life in America, and when they get here, they owe that insurmountable debt that they can never pay back, and they're forced into labor. Where do they operate? Chat lines and chat rooms. many of you are familiar with chat lines and chat rooms on the internet, it has really revolutionized child trafficking and the availability for it. They're everywhere, and I guess that's what this slide is meant to demonstrate, that just because it doesn't just exist in Las Vegas or in chat rooms on the internet, it's really everywhere. Clubs, on the street, in people's homes. They showed another video of a young lady who was trafficked by a family member. And not to the outside appearances, and that's what her neighbors all said, is she would come and go. There was not, she wasn't kept locked in a room in the house or anything. She was able to come and go freely, but she still had to engage in these activities that she didn't want to because of the pressures, both financially and physically, that he was putting on her as a family member. So, social media is another huge one. You know, if you see the news, there's like the Snapchat update, where if you send a Snapchat, it automatically updates your location if it's on your phone. I mean, these are tools that human traffickers and people are using to identify where young people are, trying to use them as targets. Shopping malls. On dates, as the young lady described, she entered into a relationship with a trafficker. And at the time, obviously, he didn't identify himself as that, but that's what he turned out to be. And it's really unfortunate that we have to be that careful, especially after 6 months. You think you would know somebody, after 6 months. In schools and after-school programs, they talk about too. People are going to try to target vulnerable children anywhere they can find them. This is the last video I'm going to show you. And I'm just about done with my presentation here, but this was really impactful for me because it does kind of hit close to home.
Please take a seat. Thank you so much for coming in. I'm Mary, by the way.
Mary tonight.
Today, nice to meet you. Don't mind the giant microphones over here.
I'll try.
There are 3 photos in front of you. If you could just pick one, it doesn't really matter which one it is, and show that one to us.
Alright.
Could you describe her to us?
She looks youthful.
I feel like this is one of those situations where if I say he's 23, then he's actually going to be 16.
Hispanic, maybe not full, but part. Similar to me, actually.
Well, I mean, she's young, so really has a lot of things to look forward to.
I would describe him as friendly.
She looks, happy. She doesn't look shy, but confident.
Anything she puts her mind to, she could achieve.
We actually have his story, if you could read that out loud to us.
Marcus. I grew up really close to my parents. Adriana. I grew up with my brother and sister.
Amy. I remember watching the Olympics on TV when I was 5 and being totally in awe of the sprinters.
I was the middle child and easily the quietest.
I felt like no one ever saw me or cared.
Dad was too drunk to keep a job, and he never even saw me unless I was in his way.
Mom worked 2 jobs to make sure we had food for every meal, so she was never here to know when he would hit us.
One day when I went to the mall, like I like to do to be out of the house, a man came up to me and told me I was beautiful and asked me on a date.
On our first date, he drove me around in his car and said we could eat whatever I wanted.
Every time we were together, he bought me something new.
Tom really cared about me. And Tom really made me feel special.
I was in love with him.
After only going out for 3 weeks, Tom offered me a way out of my home, asked me to move in with him. So when he asked me to have sex with him, I did.
He would put his hand over my face until I couldn't breathe.
Tom had friends over pretty regularly, and I could tell that some of his friends were into me.
So I kept my door locked and hoped that no one would bother me.
After a few minutes of crashing there, he said that I so owed him for letting me stay at his place.
He said he had a friend who wanted to spend an hour with me. He told me I might have to do some stuff and not to worry about it. It's not a big deal.
When I didn't want to, he slapped me and said no one ever cared about me like he did.
But I didn't know what else to do because I needed a place to stay.
His friends forced themselves on me and took turns while he watched.
One by one, they'd come down to the basement, telling me how pretty I am.
When they're on top of me, I just close my eyes and pretend I'm running.
I'm exhausted and I don't know what to do.
My name is Adriana, I'm 16 years old.
My name is Marcus, I'm 14 years old. My name is Amy, I'm 12 years old.
I live in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And I live in Grand Rapids, Michigan.
And I live in Grand Rapids, Michigan.
that was very different than what I thought. Especially because, like, being a girl and imagining, like, if that was me, like, that's, I don't even know, I can't even imagine what that would be like. She deserves to be a kid, just like what she is in this picture.
It being so close to home is something that makes me want to jump out of this chair.
I wouldn't think that Grand Rapids is a place where anything like this would ever happen.
Because you don't want it to happen to anybody, and you really don't want it to happen to people that live where you live.
Thank you for sharing her story with us. I'd like to show you something if you wouldn't mind taking her picture and following me to the gym.
See that, but it says the number of children trafficked in West Michigan. That's the representation you see on that board.
Expected something certainly a lot smaller.
Bar graphs and numbers, and but these are actual people. I don't know, in like my world, in my bubble or whatever, we don't talk about this. It's not something we think about.
You know, what we see is only on the surface.
I mean, looking at this section actually doesn't have any discrimination, that's for sure. Ages, genders, can affect anybody.
It hits you right in your heart, your gut, your stomach. It's like, wow. Now it's like I feel like I have this weight of responsibility to see how I can help.
Changes through greater awareness and making people realize that this does happen here and will continue to happen until we decide to make a stop.
That pretty powerful stuff, isn't it? Especially since it's so close to home. I think that's what hit me. You know, a lot of times we see these videos put together, and it's the Las Vegases, it's the Detroits, it's the New Yorks, but this is put together by the Kent County Human Trafficking Task Force. That's in Grand Rapids. So it's pretty powerful to see how much of it actually happens here in Western Michigan. It's kind of scary. So I just put a couple things up here. If you have concerns about people, something you think doesn't seem right, it doesn't hurt to call and at least report it. So the first one I put up there is the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. Obviously, you can call and report child abuse and neglect at any time, which is what underage child human trafficking is considered. That's their intake hotline. You can call 24/7. You can be anonymous. But if you see something that we all have had those gut feelings in our life where we go, something is just not right with this situation, and it strikes you that it might be something somebody needs to look into. I encourage you to call that. My wife works for Child Protective Services, and I can't tell you how many times just that inkling that somebody had that something wasn't right has led to helping a child out of a difficult situation. The other one I put on there obviously is law enforcement. We take hundreds and thousands of calls every year. We encourage anybody who sees something that they don't think looks right to call 911. In our training, they talked about a truck driver who was at a truck stop, saw two underage girls going truck to truck, what he thought was engaged in prostitution, and he saved two young ladies who were being trafficked. Just that one concerned person is all it takes to make that phone call and try to extend a hand and save some of these kids or some of these people who are engaged in this activity. The other thing is the National Human Trafficking Resource Center hotline. That's in Washington, D.C. It's obviously a center. They track a ton of statistics online. If you do the internet, they've got a great website you can go to. I don't have it with me right now, but they have a bunch of statistics. But the best thing is to get with local law enforcement. Call 911 if you see something that's not right, so that we can get out there and try to, intercept some of this stuff. Because, they're here and then they take off again. Does anybody have any questions? I think I'm just about out of time here, but, and don't get me wrong, we could spend 2 days, I could do a 2-day class and really get in depth with a lot of the things I talked about today. This is kind of just a glossing over the surface, just kind of an awareness thing for you folks. Just to be aware that it is out there. Yes, sir?
Are most of the victims teenagers and younger?
I wouldn't even say that. A lot of this affects all age ranges. Typically, the younger people are a little more susceptible because a lot of them don't have the means to provide for themselves. But this human trafficking affects people of all ages, races, sexes. It really doesn't discriminate at all.
Are we talking even younger than 10?
In some cases, unfortunately, yes. Just as we're all aware of there's child predators out there and people who will take advantage of children for a lot of really unspeakable activities. So it really doesn't. Any age is susceptible to it. Yes, sir. Were you really? In Traverse City? No kidding.
You might have to repeat what he said.
Okay. No kidding. So what he's saying is that he was propositioned in the mall in Traverse City at one point, and then just recently he was propositioned at the casino here in Manistee. What I would encourage you to do, sir, is if you ever run into activity like that again, report it to security. Kind of look at who you're dealing with, because even though a lot of times prostitution has a really negative connotation with people, so we tend to look down on people who are engaged in that activity. Maybe that person was being trafficked and really felt in a spot where they had no other choice to save their life but to engage in that. So if we can make the authorities aware of it and get somebody to intercept that activity, maybe we can help these people. And that's what's great about class, just even small introductory things like this to make people aware of it is. Yeah, yes, sir.
We wanted to take to
To Florida?
Florida.
Oh, you're kidding me. He's saying that she was going to take him to Florida. It's hard to say what her motivation was or what her story was, but and maybe she's just a nice lady. You're a good-looking guy, so well, no, and that's just it. In your gut, you knew something was up with that, right? There was a red flag that came up when that happened. So these are the things that I'm talking about. Maybe we investigate it, or maybe somebody looks into it and it's really nothing. It's just a friendly lady who, just having one of those nights. But maybe it's not. And I guess it's really not an issue for us to investigate something and go, okay, well, that's nothing, and people are on their way. And maybe you don't even have to really get involved. But if we aren't aware of it, then we can't do that investigation into it and have the potential to save some of these people who might be forced into some of these activities. So, thank you for sharing that. Anybody else have any questions? Got it.
I also wondered, 10 years ago, at that Natalie Holloway,
Yep.
probably dead now, but rumors were going that she was in that South America, something that's the same.
Yep. And what Nadi's talking about is in Natalie Holloway. I mean, there were some rumors going around that potentially she had gotten sucked into a human trafficking. And it could very well be. You never really know. I mean, we've all heard the stories of people who disappear and we don't find them for 10, 15 years later. I can't remember the specifics. There was one fairly recently though, where some young girls were down in this guy's house, and he's an everyday. People saw him in the neighborhood, thought he was maybe just kind of a weird guy, but nothing that struck you as being criminal. But it's really hard to tell. But that's why we need to increase awareness of it. If you see something that sends a red flag, something that doesn't feel right, call us, even if it's 911 or the non-emergency number. Just say, hey, I think somebody needs to kind of look into this. It just doesn't feel right. So, Anybody else? Well, thank you very much, folks. And like I said, I know this is a real quick, lot of information at you, but I appreciate you guys checking it out. Thank you to the chair for inviting me.
He's not as long-winded as I am. So every now and then we got to give you a little fresh breath so you don't have to listen to me all the time. But no, he did a great job, and again, just touching it. Just to kind of give you that awareness of what's out there. Don't ever be afraid to even call us. I know we threw some numbers up there. Don't expect you to remember those. You call us so we can make things happen. So again, thank you, Brian. Did a great job. This is something that you hear about more and more, and you just don't think it happens here, but it does. So next month we'll be back with Police Talk. I'm not sure on our topic. I have 2 or 3 brewing. Just depends. You might have me, or I may have a speaker. It depends on which way we go. But if there's any topics you'd like to hear, and I say this every few months, something you'd like to have me bring in or talk about, let us know. Because we can talk about things all day long, but I want something that's of interest to you. So when you leave here, something you didn't know, now you know. Then it's worth our time to come and do this. Yes, sir. Well, 911 is mostly for an emergency line. Okay. However, if you can't think of the regular business office line or the central dispatch, you can call 911. They will patch it through the right way. So 723-6241, that's kind of the central dispatch, because they dispatch the city police, the state police, the tribal police, the sheriff, animal control, marine, everybody goes through that number.
What's that number again?
723-6241. Again, non-emergent. 6241. And that'll get you the closest car. So if it happened and you live up in Oak Hill and there happens to be a state trooper 2 blocks away, a state trooper will knock on your door. If the sheriff's close, then we'll come. Or if you specifically ask for someone. If you'd like a sheriff's deputy or a state trooper, you have that option as well. But we're just trying to get everything covered the best we can with what we have. Okay? Yes, sir.
One of the subjects maybe the internet or telephone scams.
Okay? We touched on the scams before, but it's been about a year. So we might be able, maybe in the fall we'll hit that one again, because enough times come around where it's about time to refresh that. Because they're resurfacing, they always do. Yeah, they do. Anything else? Yes?
I'll tell you something good. When I was working, we had a guy who didn't show up for work for 3 days. The union and the company called him into the office. His excuse was he was on his way to work. He come out of the house. He was kidnapped by 2 prostitutes and driven all the way to Ohio. That's why he was gone for 3 days. The company shrugs their shoulders so that the union running this.
I have no comment.
That was a good one.
But again, if there's anything you can think about, because we try to just bring in some different conversations. I know we still are working on the animal control part. I want him to come in because there's just a lot of questions with animal control, as silly as it sounds, but there's a lot to it. He can give you a lot of information in a half hour to 45 minutes. So I'm hoping to have him either next month or the following. But again, if you have anything, just give me a call. I always tell everybody I'm the only John that's not a restroom. So you can call me anytime, just ask for John, and you're going to get me. So, all right?
That was a joke.
All right. And that's a joke, and he usually tells the jokes, but his aren't funny. Mine are. So have a good afternoon. We'll see everybody next month, okay? All right.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Here's your guitar back, buddy.
Before I trip on it.
So,
Here's my guitar back, buddy.
thanks. The old switcheroo here. Actually, better look at what song's next. There we go. All right. We're gonna do a Charlie Puth featuring Meghan Trainor song now for you. Yeah. Does anybody know why Humpty Dumpty loves autumn so much? Because Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. Thank you so much. Yeah.
They get worse.
They get better, I promise.
Are you allowed to think your own jokes are good? Isn't that some like law of nature that you can't?
He can laugh at himself. That's a good thing.
I laugh at him all the time.
It's like a roast of me over here, man. All right, let's get back to singing now. This one's titled Marvin Gaye. We hope you guys enjoy it. Let's Marvin Gaye and get it on. You got the healing that I want. Just like they say to the song, till the dawn. Let's Marvin Gaye and get it on. We've got this king size to ourselves. Don't have to share with no one else. Don't keep the secrets to yourself. Oh, it's Kama Sutra show and tell. Yeah. Oh, there's loving in your eyes that pulls me closer.
Oh, it pulls me closer.
It's so subtle. I'm in trouble, but I would rather be in trouble with you. Let's Marvin Gaye and get it on. You got the healing that I want. Just like they say in the song, till the dawn. Let's Marvin Gaye and get it on. You got to give it up to me. I'm screaming mercy, mercy, please. Just like they say in the song, till the dawn. Let's Marvin Gaye and get it on.
And when you leave me all alone, I'm like a stray without a home. I'm like a dog without a bone. And I just want you for my own. I got to have you, babe.
Oh, there's loving in your eyes that pulls me closer. It's so subtle. I'm in trouble, but I would love to be in trouble with you. Let's Marvin Gaye and get it on. Ooh, yeah, got that healing that you want.
Just like they say in the song, until the dawn. Let's Marvin Gaye and get it on.
Let's Marvin Gaye and get it on. You got the healing that I want. Just like they say in the song, till the dawn. Let's Marvin Gaye and get it on, babe. You got to give it up to me. I'm screaming mercy, mercy, please. Just like they say it in the song, till the dawn. Let's Marvin Gaye and get it on, babe. Just like they say it in the song, till the dawn. Let's Marvin Gaye and get it on, babe. Ooh.
Thank you.
All right. Well, there probably aren't too many new. Well, no, I lied. There's probably a bunch of new people out here. We're Awesome Distraction. In case you didn't hear or you forgot or whatever. People who were here for more time. How are we sounding? We sounding good? Yeah. All right. So new people, you know to expect good things. Do want to just do a little bit of shameless advertising for us and for the Portage Lake Association. They'll be passing around a bucket at some point. I don't know if there's a location for that bucket now or if they're just going to be, it's around now. Cool. Give them your money. It gets events like this going on. This bucket is to fund next year's concert series. So please, for the sake of the village of Onekama, for all the surrounding people, as well as all the musicians that get to play here, please support them and support this organization. It's awesome. In terms of our shameless advertising, we do have some CDs for sale. You can get one now, but there's really not a place to put any money. We'll be there during the intermission selling CDs. And we do take card or cash. We'll take your money somewhere or another.
All right, well, I'm only going to be able to get, like, so much, so if you really, really need to be in the picture, you might want to concentrate to this area. Okay. Should probably turn it on first. All right, on 3, ready? 1, 2, 3. It's always got a flash. It'll come out. Turn it on the brightest setting, so you guys shine like stars out there. Sorry about these technical issues. Usually we don't have this problem. Usually we can get pretty loud. Is it cutting out still? Can everybody buy that? Spend a lot of money.
Field or in Mountain.
If I had $1 million,
if I had $1 million,
well, I'd buy you a K car,
ooh, a nice reliant automobile.
And if I had $1 million, I'd buy your love. If I had $1 million,
well, I'd build a tree fort in our yard.
If I had $1 million,
if you could help, it wouldn't be that hard.
If I had $1 million,
maybe we could put a little tiny fridge in there somewhere.
Yeah, you know, we could just go up there and hang out, open up the fridge. Oh, be all these little foods laid out for us.
Yeah, like those tiny pre-up sausages.
Yeah.
Hey, did you know that they make pre-up sausage, but they don't make pre-up bacon?
Well, can you blame them?
Yeah.
Coat.
Not a real fur coat, that's cool.
If I had $1 million,
if I had $1 million,
well, I'd buy you some sort of exotic pet.
Yeah, like a llama or an emu.
If I had $1 million,
if I had $1 million,
well, I'd buy you John Merrick's remains,
oh, their crazy elephant bones.
And if I had $1 million, I'd buy your love. If I had $1 million,
we wouldn't have to walk to the store.
If I had $1 million,
we could take a limousine, cause it costs
and if
more.
I had $1 million,
we wouldn't have to eat craft dinner.
Oh.
What?
Well,
we wouldn't have to eat craft dinner, guys. We could eat stuff like fancy cuisines and authentic Mexican food and...
But what about craft dinner?
there's something about that simplicity, you know?
I mean, yeah, we'd, probably just eat a lot more of it.
Oh.
Buy really expensive ketchups and things with it,
Ooh, what about, like, Dijon?
Oh, dude. I had Dijon the other day. That stuff is amazing.
green dress.
But not a real green dress, that's cool.
And if I had $1 million,
if I had $1 million,
art,
like a Picasso or a Gargoyle.
If I had $1 million,
Oh, if I had $1 million,
well, I'd buy you a monkey.
Perfect, you always wanted a monkey.
And if I had $1 million, I'd buy your love. If I had $1 million,
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 if I had $1 million, I'd be rich. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh. Dedicated to?
We get a lot of some family members behind closed doors pay us to learn some songs, and so
Don't tell them that.
gives us a little bit more motivation. We're busy, you know. It's hard to learn new stuff sometimes, but this one goes out to Nick's grandpa. Wave your hand. Where are you at? He's back there. There he is, right there. This song brought to you by Tom Vane.
Sponsored by Tom.
Sponsored by Tom Vane.
Ready? Almost. Yes.
Go ahead. Sometimes all it takes to please her is a touch of your hand. And other times you gotta take it slow and hold her all night long. 'Cause heaven knows there's so many ways a man can go wrong. Must be doing something right. I just heard you sigh. Lean into my kiss and close those deep blue need true eyes. Don't know what I did to earn a love like this, but baby, I must be doing something anywhere you wanna go. Baby, show me the way. I'm open to suggestions. Whatever you say. Tonight's about giving you what you want. Whatever it takes. Girl, I'm on the right road, judging by the smile on your face. Must be doing something right. I just heard you sigh. Lean into my kiss and close those deep blue need true eyes. Don't know what I did to earn a love like this, but baby, I
something right. Oh, baby, must be doing something right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Oh, cool.
You know, we're Awesome Distraction. Thank you guys so much for coming out tonight, hanging out with us. We really appreciate that. There's a lot of people here. Hello to everybody over there and everybody way over there. And, we got just a few more songs.
And over there.
Yeah, in the middle,
from us.
right?
Hello.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. I'm sorry.
We're not leaving you out.
We got just a few more songs in this set. We're gonna take a little break. This next song is a Hosier tune, and this is titled "Work Song." I know this speaker keeps cutting out. I'm really sorry about that, guys. I don't know what's wrong with it, but
it's not working. That's what's wrong.
Boys walking on empty. Is that the kind of way to face the burning heat? I just think about my baby. I'm so full of love I could barely eat. There's nothing sweeter than my baby. I never won once from the cherry tree. 'Cause my baby's sweet as can be. She gave me toothaches just from kissing me. When my
Time comes around, lay me gently in the cold dark earth. No grave could hold my body down, crawl home to her.
And that was when my baby found me. I was 3 days on a drunken sin. I woke with her walls around me. Nothing in her room but an empty crib. And I was burning up a fever. I didn't care much how long I lived, but I swear I thought I dreamed her. She never asked me once about the wrong I did.
When my time comes around, lay me gently in the cold dark earth. No grave could hold my body down, crawl home to her. When my time comes around, lay me gently in the cold dark earth. No grave could hold my body down, crawl home to her.
And my babe would never fret none about what my hands and my body done. And if the Lord don't forgive me, I'd still have my baby and my babe would have me. When I was kissing on my baby, she put her love down soft and sweet. In the vulnerable night I was free. Heaven and hell were words to me.
When my time comes around, lay me gently in the cold dark earth. No grave could hold my body down, I'll crawl home to her. When my time comes around, lay me gently in the cold dark earth. No grave could hold my body down, I'll crawl home to her.
Thank you.
Do a little Johnny Cash tune here for you. Back when I was just a lad, times were hard and things were bad, but there's a silver lining behind every cloud. Poor people, that's all we were, trying to make a living out of black land dirt. We'd get together in the family circle, singing loud. Daddy sang bass,
Mama sang tenor.
me and little brother would join right in there. We singing seemed to help a troubled soul.
Well, one of these days it won't be long, I will join them in a song.
I'm gonna join the family circle at the throne. No, the circle won't be broken. By and by, Lord, by and by. Daddy sang bass,
Mama sang tenor.
me and little brother would join right in there. In the sky, Lord, in the sky. I remember after work, Mama would call in all of us. Well, you could hear us singing for a country mile. Little brother is done gone on, but I'll rejoin him in a song. I'm gonna join the family circle at the throne. Daddy sang bass,
Mama sang tenor.
me and little brother would join right in there. Singing seemed to help a troubled soul.
Well, one of these days it won't be long, I will join them in a song.
I'm gonna join the family circle at the throne. No, the circle won't be broken. By and by, Lord, by and by. Daddy sang bass,
Mama sang tenor.
me and little brother would join right in there. In the sky, Lord, in the sky. In the sky, Lord, in the sky. In the sky, Lord, in the sky. Thank you.
Thank you.
We just got one more in this set for you, and then we'll be over there to take you money. And I'm mostly kidding, but